Hi all. Um, Before you decide if you're watching this afterwards, this is my first go live on not Facebook, on YouTube. Um, if you're listening to this after the fact or whatever, please stay tuned. The If you are a U.S. citizen, particularly one that pays taxes, I think that you're gonna care about this. No matter what you care about with the other things I talk about, stay tuned and consider. You may not want the U.S. spending your tax dollars on this. Um, okay, so for those of you that do not know me, my name is John Adkisson. Um, John K. Adkisson, if you need to separate me from, there's like a John Adkisson that's a doctor up in Yakima, Washington. I've actually chatted with that guy before. And there's also another John Adkisson that's actually an actor. I am neither of those. There aren't a whole lot of John Adkissons, and my last name is spelled Adkison. It's Adkisson, not Adkinson. Um, And if you've looked at my channel before, or if you're subscribed to my channel, you probably already understand that I am a genital autonomy advocate. I started being a serious genital autonomy advocate back in, I basically came out of the closet back in January of 2018. That was almost a dozen years after my first son was born. And why I came out of the closet was by writing a blog article and then sharing it. So after after I started coming out and started looking into things, I well, I decided to start trying to take some actual legal action. And the very first thing I did was I filed a criminal complaint with the law enforcement where I was born, because I consider what was done to me as an infant a sexual assault and battery on me as a minor. So if someone did that to a minor, outside of might be considered medical conditions or whatever, or not by a doctor, that would carry some steep fines, right? Maybe some serious prison time. And that was here. This was my article about that, and they actually, they created a case for me, but because I was born on a naval base, a hospital, a naval base, they pass it on to the Navy because the sheriff in the county I was born in doesn't have authority on the base. And shortly after I did that, I entered a tort claim. Oh, did I put in? I don't know. Yeah, I created a tort claim. I didn't create an article on my blog specifically about that, but I did file a tort claim, and I half expected that I would get that they would come back saying, "Well, this has been too long ago since this happened." Blah blah blah. Well, if you know anything about statute of limitations, when it comes to what might be considered a medical uh, like a mistake in surgery or something like that, you only have a couple years to file a lawsuit against the medical professional or the hospital or whoever about that. Now, again, I don't really consider this a medical procedure. Most people do. You probably do. You see the word circumcision, and if you're looking at this, you notice I put quotes around the word circumcision, because really circumcised, when you look at the history of the word, the Latin, all that means is cut in a circle or strike in a circle. And it was adopted by religion as a euphemism. Don't worry, I used to think of it as a good term myself. So, I I guess I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So I, so after they came back and they said, well, you can go and file a lawsuit with the federal government in federal court. That's what I did. I've learned how to file a pro se court case, and I completed all the documentation, paid the $400 to file the case, and I spent more money later on to deal with the process and all that. But not too long ago this year, we finally got around to a finality about that. The district attorney came back and gave a huge response to my claim. I'm pretty sure they had to spend a good bit of time working on that. I think it was back in April that the case was dismissed, and in my blog article I give links to the documentation and stuff like that I got from the federal government, and the judge didn't hem or haw about it at all. After the judge got the information, the response from the district attorney, he went ahead and agreed to dismiss the case, because that's what the attorney was requesting. The judge did not put in any kind of opinion or anything, just dismissed the case. And the case was dismissed for two things. Again, the timeliness issue, which is, I argued that to a certain extent I probably should have argued it more in the paperwork that I filed, but I was expecting that I would have a chance to defend why the timing I should have gotten equitable tolling on that timing for multiple reasons. But the thing that is really difficult to get over, and I just kind of accepted, is that the FTCA, as the Federal Tort Claims Act, says that you can't sue the federal government over assault. Okay, well, again, I consider assault and battery, and it's sexual assault and battery of a minor. And if I mean, look at the Boy Scouts, for example. The whole the Boy Scouts is handing out money left and right, and I always see these ads for the Boy Scouts, for lawyers that say, well, hey, if you were a Boy Scout that got, sexually molested or whatever while you were in Boy Scouts, contact us. We can file a claim for you. And that could have happened many years ago, and it happened. So, anyways, I think that you should be able to sue the federal government. Suppose I probably could sue the individual that performed it, and it's possible that the person might still be alive, but not likely. And the reason why I was aiming after the federal government is because, as far as I'm concerned, when you are working in the military, you're not working autonomously. You work under orders. And it's the federal government as a whole that I think made a mistake. And that kind of leads into what this whole video is about. And I wrote up an article here that gives a link to the Department of Defense Inspector General's office. So what led to this as being the next step is someone suggested that you could file a suit in court that wasn't necessarily looking for compensation of any kind, but to get the government to change something, to change the law or change the procedure, whatever. So, okay, so I started looking into that, and I reached out to some military contacts to try to identify if they used a code of some sort for the procedure, whether you call it circumcision or preputial amputation or whatever, what kind of code that they would use on the medical documents. Because I wanted to, when I filed in the federal court, I wanted to at least have that code on hand to have some sort of, solid proof or solid reference to what is going on in the military hospitals still to this day. And someone suggested that I contact the Inspector General. So they even gave me a phone number. But then I started looking into it and basically got to this website and identified that, well, I could call them. I could even send them a fax. There it is right there. Hey, if you're still, in the 1980s and you use a fax machine, go ahead and send a fax. You can even write something via snail mail. Here it is. But really, it's, if you're with the times these days, you just fill out a form online, and you can submit a hotline complaint. And you might want to look into what not to report and who may file a hotline complaint, stuff like that. It's here. Members of the public. Okay, so even if you're not a military member or some sort of a contractor or employee of the DoD in one way or another, you're likely a member of the public. And I'm assuming that when it says member of the public, that's the United States public. I've had some friends from outside the U.S. that have asked, well, can I file a complaint? And I don't think so. I guess you could try. Maybe I should have said, well, try it. Who knows what'll happen. But so this past weekend, I went ahead and clicked on submit a hotline complaint and filled out the forms. And it's a little bit confusing. First of all, you can file anonymously if you don't want to have your name at all on this. If you don't, I understand. It's kind of scary to be public about this. I went and chose to identify myself. And I gave them permission and all that, and I continued, and I filled out all the, first name, last name, et cetera, and continued. I'm not going to go through all this in detail. You can probably figure it all out yourself. But the slightly confusing part of it is that the complaint is designed with the idea that you're complaining for yourself or complaining for another individual. Well, I'm not doing this to complain about what was done to me. I'm doing this, or I did this, to complain about what's being done every single day, probably every few minutes in the military, to baby boys in the military hospitals of the United States military hospitals. So it's possible to skip fields that don't have the asterisk and all that, and it's not, if you just work through it, you can figure it out. It's not too complex of a form. And anyways, so I completed this form, filled it out, and sent it, and over the weekend, and lo and behold, Monday morning, I got a call. Oh boy. Got my blood going. And if you're a genital autonomy advocate that spent any amount of time debating this issue, you just almost expect certain things anymore. There's always certain responses like, it's the parent's choice. What? So, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this, I responded to the person that called me and said, yeah, I was totally expecting that. And so tell me, when and how was it ever deemed that it should be the parent's choice to cut off healthy, normal, natural tissue from an otherwise healthy child? Of course, this person doesn't have an answer, and no one ever does when we have this conversation, this debate. Like, well, show me in the law where there's an exception to assault and battery of a minor, sexual assault and battery of a minor. A lot of people even consider it rape, and when you really think about it, it fits the definition of rape too. But I'm not going to get into that right here, right now. Go and bring it up with me in comments or whatever, and look at the definition of rape and look into the actual procedure, and maybe it'll click for you about why the word rape comes up. But anyways, I probably should have done more to write down the details. I think I wrote down more than I'm thinking of right now in the blog article. But so I right away got into the whole term, the word. It's like where the word even comes from. That makes it's just totally silly that after being adopted by religion, that it was brought into the healthcare realm as a procedure. Circumcise does not define at all what is being cut off, where, how, any details at all, right? So that's why I always use the term preputial amputation. And then I got into how it even got started as a regular practice in the military, how it became popular during World War II, and more so after World War II, where men would get infections because they spent so much time without a shower. They were, in the ditches fighting the war. And on top of that, the whole war was about rescuing the Jews from the Nazis, right? I mean, that's what we hear in history books and all is, it's all about how the Jews were put in gas chambers and anyways. Yeah, you already probably know a certain amount of history if you went through, public high school in the U.S. And so the idea there is that, okay, so we come back and, we have all these feelings for the Jews, and we know that the Jews do this to their boys, so, well, maybe we should do it to our sons too. I don't know. I really don't know what the thinking was back then. My grandfather that was in World War II is gone. He's passed, and I never had a chance to really discuss that timing with him. I don't even know for sure whether he was intact himself or not, or whether he was one of these men that was ordered to go through a preputial amputation for himself. I don't know. I know that he became a disabled veteran because of his, I think he got something in his knee or whatever, and he couldn't walk correctly because of it. But he was never a man to talk too much about that stuff. And then third, like she kept bringing up, well, it's it's something that the parents choose. Okay, come on. Okay, so if my parents chose to hire a hitman to kill me, would they be the only ones that would be held accountable? No. The hitman would be thrown in jail too, right? So, it does not give them excuse to do this. This is not something that, first of all, well, I don't know about first of all, but it shouldn't be something that they're using tax money to pay for. It's not a therapeutic action. It's a preemptive, if you even want to consider it that, preventative sort of measure, because of all the claims about how it reduces STDs and all that. And back then they didn't even have the HIV studies or or anything. And if you really take an honest look at these medical studies and just ask this one simple question. Okay, so there's all these studies to find benefits of cutting off half or more of the penile skin system of males, but there's like nothing around doing cutting of females to reduce chances of STDs or UTIs or vulvar cancer or whatever. I should tell you right away that okay, there's something going on behind this. All these studies are coming out of the WordWorks, and they're doing all these studies to try to find some sort of medical benefits, post hoc. Why are they even doing that? Why is it coming up? Sorry. Got this nice new microphone that I'm using, and I just bumped it. So yeah, I can go on and on about this whole issue. But let's say, if the person that you're listening to this and you're laughing at me thinking, you're just whiner or whatever because, it happened to you and you don't like it or whatever, and even sold a bill of goods on, not liking it by whoever, by Intact Men or whatever. 15 years, guys, I've been studying this, so even if you think that, quote, circumcision of babies is a good thing, do you really think that it's something that the military of the U.S. should be doing? I don't like that in my tax money paying for it, and even I'd throw a fit just if it was just my tax money going at it, because it's nothing like a vaccine, not at all. I mean, vaccines are like 99 or at least 90%, successful, at reducing your chances of getting something. So anyways, back to the, history again. So, you look back at World War II, and it's like somewhere at some time, someone thought that it would be okay to do this to a baby boy. And, well, hey, if this one person did it and they didn't get thrown in jail because of it, well, then that must mean that I can do it too, and I won't get thrown in jail for it, or I won't get in trouble for cutting off, a part of a baby's penis. So it just went on and on and on. No one actually questioned whether it was something that was legally allowed. It's always been an assumption, and it's still to this day, a lot of people think that it's legal, but you can't find. At least I haven't been able to find. And if you have been able to find some sort of law, the U.S. law at least, that makes it clear that it is legal, please share it with me. Please give it a link or whatever. No one's been able to give me that. So many people have claimed that it's legal, and I say, okay, well, prove it to me. Show me where it's an exception to sexual assault and battery of a minor. They don't have it. They just never have a good answer. They said, well, because it's not deemed, explicitly illegal, then it must be legal. Yeah, that's like the whole anti-FGM law. The judge that struck down the anti-FGM law, not too long ago, Brian Earp, E-A-R-P, he's discussed this on multiple occasions. Even it was pretty clear that no, you don't need. I mean, as much as he struck down this law, you don't need it because it's obviously sexual assault and battery of a minor. If you cut a little girl without a medical need, it is sexual assault and battery of a minor, and that applies to males too. And you can even go as far as saying, well, it probably even applies to intersex. If intersex children don't have any problem with urinating, you shouldn't be able to just, hack away parts of their genitalia to fit your idea of what normal is. So she was still compelled to drop the case. She was like, well, I've got to drop this case because, it's something that parents, sign off on, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, no, no. Just because they sign off on it doesn't mean that they were allowed to. And even if they sign off on it, even if they fill out a form and say, yeah, or, sign on a form saying, yeah, go ahead and, do this to my son, it doesn't give you, the military, the U.S. military, U.S. individual, the right to do it. It's still a violation of our First Amendment rights. Here's the thing: you claim it for religion, or you can claim it for medical, preventive medical, or you can try to claim it for both. So, if you're claiming it for religion, because of freedom of religion, right? Freedom of religion belongs to the individual. I'm sorry, that violated my freedom of religion. I don't care what my parents believed religiously. I am living my entire life without a chance for parole. I am imprisoned in this body that has been mutilated. I mean, sure, I'm not behind bars, and sure, I can walk outside my house and go for a hike and go down to the beach and stuff like that, and choose what I want to eat. But I can't escape this body. So that's a sort of prison. And that's the whole reason why we have our Constitution and Bill of Rights, is to protect us from the government violating our rights, and they putting us in prison or oppressing us or hanging us or whatever else that would be deemed punishment of one form or another, torture or whatever. So the freedom of religion thing just doesn't hold. And if you are claiming preventive medical benefits, well, that sets a bad precedent. You're opening a huge can of worms. Because if you can claim that, then others can claim things like female, quote, circumcision. Or there be, cutting away some of the labia or the clitoris or clitoral hood, or even just doing a ritual nick on a girl. Or, hey, might want to remove some of those toes. You don't need all those. Let's just remove the pinky toe. It's one last thing to clean. One last thing to, get infections, whatever. It's silly. It just is. So, again, if you are a tax-paying citizen and you care about your tax dollars being used properly, or even better, you really hate that children's rights are being violated, go fill out this form. It doesn't take too long to complete it, and do it soon. I'd say here on the bottom of my article, this is time sensitive. Strike while the iron is hot. I got a bug in there, so it's fresh in their minds. If other people file this, it's just going to make it that much more, it's going to let people know that, hey, yeah, there are people out here in the U.S. that do not think that the U.S. should be doing this. Look around the world, guys. Australia does not allow the procedure in public hospitals. Canada doesn't cover it with public healthcare funds. I know that several of the states, more than half of the states, cover the procedure under state-paid healthcare. But I really think that the military, the U.S. military, is a first stop, because the states often follow whatever the feds do. So if the states see the feds stop paying for it in their military hospitals, stop doing it in military hospitals, maybe they'll say, "Oh, well, wait a second. Maybe we shouldn't be paying for this with public funds in our states." I hope you all hear my my passion and my feelings about this whole thing. It gets me ramped up, and it's only gotten me more and more ramped up as I spent more and more time looking at this issue. And when I say this issue, I'm talking about genital autonomy. I'm not talking about circumcision. I'm definitely not just talking about circumcision of boys. I'm talking about genital autonomy for everyone. And it's all connected. Male, female, and intersex. You start listening to the excuses and the discussions, the debates about any one of those three. And you really quickly realize we're talking about one thing. One thing. Genital autonomy. And as long as we keep ignoring the genital autonomy issue in the U.S., or if we keep struggling with it, and I know the whole trans rights thing has got into this to muddy it up a little bit. And intersex has really only come out of the woodwork just in the past few years. I mean, look at the YouTube videos. There's 100 some YouTube videos on intersex, and they're pretty much all less than a few years old. There's, I could spend hours here with you showing you stuff, because there's a mountain of information out there. So I created this website, genitalatomysociety.org. It's primarily a database for people to say, hey, I believe this too. We believe that everyone has a right to the genitalia they were born with. Just click on the Me Too button and fill out the form to get your sign on, and then you sign on and complete your profile to help identify what you might want to do in this movement. Every little bit helps, guys. Just send a tweet out every day, or retweet someone's tweet. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll try to put some links and stuff in the comment, or in this video. Just, a few minutes every day, not even. I mean, just click the retweet button of a tweet you find, or share a post on Facebook that you come across, or even Pinterest. I've been checking that out. There's so many social media things. Share it, highlight it, love it, like it, whatever, subscribe. Any little thing, every little thing you do, it's gonna make things grow and grow. It's just like any other movement. I mean, think about Pride. It started out with just a really small group of, gay people saying, hey, we're not going to hide in the shadows anymore. We're going to hold hands out in public. And look at that now. You have these huge parades that has sponsors, huge companies, huge corporations sponsoring these parades and everything. So there's like tons of money behind it now. Looking forward to the day when we have tons of money behind the whole genital autonomy movement as well. Stick with it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe genital autonomy is harder to get than than gay pride. Then, well, I should just say pride because I know it's the whole LGBTQI plus thing. Thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.